Hello everyone, my name is SKP and this is my watercolor doodles. So for today's video, what I'll be studying more or less, because that's what I want these watercolor doodles to be, is more of a study. So I'm studying on how to draw a watch. And throughout this video, it was more like trying to get out of my shell, so other than me posting a video, this is just to get me practicing drawing and watercoloring and pretty much doing art every day, and making these videos will pretty much put pressure onto myself and making like a schedule for me to be producing stuff, because I want this to be my career. Let alone I also want to show people on some stuff that I do and get other people to get comfortable into doing things they haven't done before. If anyone is curious with the small piece of paper I am using, it is watercolor and it's 8 by 8 inches or 20 by 20 centimeters, a little bit bigger, but it's not 21 by 21, it's like 20.32 centimeters by that. And it's from Master's Touch Fine Art Studio. It's cheap, comes with 12 sheets. It's not the best type of paper, but it's wonderful for like doing studies on, and you won't be like over layering too much. And what I used was about $5. I got it on sale, and I think I got it for like $2 something on sale at Hobby Lobby. They usually have great sales. If not, I know there's a website to go on their website to get it, and I think Amazon also sells it if you're looking for pieces of paper to try to practice with and not ready to like spend money on like really expensive ones, because I know watercolor pad paper or block is just really expensive for even one giant sheet. And if you're not comfortable spending that much money, and if this is going to be your first time watercoloring, I suggest buying more of a cheaper brand and play around with it. And there's other brands out there too, but this is the one I'm using. I like to use multiple type of brands, give or take what I'm practicing versus not practicing, and with the size. Now for the tape, if you're curious why I taped it off with 2 different types of tape, the black tape is a painter's tape. Doesn't stick too hard, it won't be ripping stuff off, and if you're still afraid to like ruining, say if you're also using a watch like mine, even though it is a cheap watch, I still didn't want it ruined. But there's a technique where you can take the piece of tape and just like tap it on your pants for a little bit, so that's where it gets some of the lint and some of the stickiness off, and then you can tape it on. And I just use that to keep the paper and the watch like securely on my board. And while the blue tape, this is about 1 centimeter wide, so I want to keep that border, and that's the type of border I usually use for any size piece of paper. For me, it just looks more comfortable. It's not too big, it's not too small, and it goes for any size, unless I'm using something that's like over 30 inches and 40 inches on the other side as well. Now, with talking about my paintbrushes, all my paintbrushes that I use are watercolor or watercolor and acrylic, because I do like that firm feeling when you get a multimedia paintbrush for watercolor and acrylic. The reason why you would want to have something that says watercolor and not just acrylic and not for oil is because they're made, either synthetic or actual real hair from animals, for holding up water and layering it on paper, while acrylic and oil, they're meant to like, they can't hold up the water. They're just meant for the thick paint in general to apply it on. It's on and then it's off. It doesn't soak anything like the brushes bristles on here. Now with all the paint brushes I have, other than my Rembrandt one, which I'm using at the moment, that's a traveler's one. My others that I will be bringing in, like I am right now, which I totally forgot the name to that one, but I'll put that in the video down below. Or, sorry, put that in the box down below. All those, they are synthetic, and I don't see the difference really with real hair paintbrushes or synthetic, other than the synthetic give more of a firm feeling to it, while some, and I haven't tested a lot with real hair paintbrushes, they're more loose, and really it all depends like what you think is better. Now for if you're saving a buck or two, synthetic, they have a wide range of pricing, and it can be anywhere from like $10 per paintbrush to you can get a bundle pack for about 10 to 20. It is a good starter. You can get them at Walmart, or if you go to Blick Art Studio store, they have a whole section, a whole aisle dedicated to just paintbrushes from any type of painting material, and that's where I got all mine that I use in this video. Now, if you're curious why I'm dabbling the towel, is because I don't like waiting for the paint to dry, and it helps build up layer. And when I notice there's just too much of a paint glob when I'm trying to practice with it and see what I'm liking, it soaks it all up. So that's where when I'm adding another layer, it doesn't interrupt with the colors with the layer I just put on. Now, if you're a little bit confused which paintbrushes to buy, at least have a set of 3 if you don't want to get like a bundle pack, or if you don't want to go out and buy every single one you see, because it can be very intimidating. But all you'll need, other than of course watercolor, is a fat one. That's the fat one that I'm using. It's about probably be as wide as your pinky. It looks like it would hold in a lot. Big drops. Then you want a medium-sized one compared to that, maybe a little bit smaller, and then like a fine tip one for details. So the fine tip one for details, that's what helped me out earlier with creating the inside of the watch and the layering of the watch. And the medium-sized one can be, doesn't have to be the exact in between, but it's more on the smaller scale size of a paintbrush. It wouldn't even be as wide as your smallest fingernail. So that's where it helps you if you're picking out at the store anytime soon. So that's where you can still get into tight spaces, but you're also, it can hold up in a lot of water. So with watercolor paintbrushes, that's why it's important picking out the watercolor specifically, or watercolor and acrylic, is because it can hold in a lot of water, so you don't have to buy a variety of paintbrush size. Now I do over time when I can, because I destroy my paintbrushes over time. But as long as you treat them nicely, it'll be fine. And I can make a video if anybody wants that on how to take care of your paintbrushes so you don't have to keep buying them even every year. Like, sadly, I do sometimes, but there's some in here I have for the past like 2-3 years. Now you guys might find it weird that I'm adding the shadows last, and sadly with my recording I didn't show me adding the highlights. Just the shadow and the highlights are my 2 very last things, and with the highlights that I did not record on accident, and that's my fault. I use Winsor & Newton Designer Gouache. So with watercolors, there's 2 ways you can add highlights. Either you use another material like gouache or acrylic paint, because it's more opaque, or you make sure you leave that spot where you want to have the highlights blank. So that's where nothing can touch it and go over it, and you're able to take that off. And then with my shadows, I add those last so it doesn't interrupt or get over layered by other watercolor on top of it, and just makes it a nice clean finish detail look. Thank you.